Tune in next time to the Z-Tech Show, your guide into the world of technology.
NASA presents to you the 2 and 4 Bowl Charity Golf Tournament from the 6th to the 7th of October at the Elephant Hills Hotel. The fees for the tournament are as follows. 4 Bowl, $300 United States dollars. 2 Bowl, $200 United States dollars. Kindly note that the fees are both inclusive of green fees and lunch. The proceeds from the tournament will go towards various charities in each of NASA's 6 regions, which are Harare, Bulawayo, Mutare, Gweru, Mashingo, and Chinhoyi. To find out more information regarding this golf tournament, kindly contact Mrs. S. Mugaviri on 0772-163-934 or email mugaviris@nasa.org.zw. NASA, a lifelong promise.
Business Unusual, separating economic facts from fiction.
Good evening and welcome to Business Unusual. I'm Mona Lisa Dube, and this evening we are talking about safety in the workplace with the National Social Security Authority, as they specialize in this. And as you would know, and as we are going to be discussing in this conversation, this is actually a right as an employee to make sure that you're working in an environment that is safe, whether it's mentally or physically, and making sure that it's not a space where you are likely to get injuries. And for further information about this, I'm joined by Benjamin Mutetwa, who is the Acting Deputy Director for Occupational Safety and Health with NASA. Thank you, Benjamin, for having time to chat with us.
Thank you so much, Mona Lisa.
All right, so I know that you have a conference that is specifically dedicated to address some of these issues with key people, and we're going to get a bit into that. But walk us through, I know earlier I spoke about how this is actually a right, which is enshrined in the Constitution, to make sure that everyone is working in the safe space. Do you think that from your work that you do, people actually are realizing this and are taking it seriously, whether it's the employee or is the employer?
Indeed, Mona Lisa, the need for much more awareness for workers out there, the public, industry, to understand that occupational safety and health has now become a fundamental right and key principle at work. I think this is very fundamental indeed. From our observation in terms of how we do our work in industry, there is still a huge gap with respect to the knowledge which we expect people out there, industry, workers, employers, to critically understand why occupational safety is so important to the generality of workers out there. You would appreciate, Mona Lisa, that when we begin to talk about occupational safety and health, it's a life and death issue. Work is good because it gives us livelihood, but it's key for people to understand that work brings with it a sickness. We can get hurt, we can die because of work, and that could be unwarranted because work should be providing the necessary means of survival. But at the same time, if we do not put in place the necessary programs and systems to guard against these unwarranted human suffering arising from work processes, it becomes an issue.
All right. So what are the current statistics? I know every year as NASA you have statistics as to people that have died while they're at work, or people that have been injured while at work. How is it looking like?
The statistics are not looking so good. As we closed last year, the occupational injury statistics were standing at around 5,600 with about 42 fatalities. These are people who die because of work. And the 5,600 injuries which I've made reference to, they're actually disabling. If we record an injury which comes to NASA, it means it is going to be compensated. It has attracted a level of degree which would warrant us to make sure that we give the necessary compensation. And once we take it that way, it means, and people should know that it is a serious injury, which somebody probably have lost his limb, has lost an eye, has suffered some irreparable damage to his or her limbs.
All right. So, what you would say are some of the sticking points within the workforce in Zimbabwe, the workplaces, to make sure that we actually have a safe environment for every employee in the country?
I think one of the biggest hurdles which we are observing in the industry is leadership commitment. Leadership commitment has become a major stumbling block in that most of these occupational accidents and injuries which are happening are a result of lack of systems, lack of programs, lack of the necessary knowledge and capacity to prevent these occupational injuries. So in that regard, you will find that there are quite a number of initiatives which are putting in place in order to make sure that the leadership is drawn much closer. A lot of work is done to bring attention to leadership so that they contribute meaningfully. They give robust responses as far as these occupational injuries are concerned.
And I'm supposing it is because of this background that you have put together the Safety and Health at Work conference for 2022, which is scheduled for October. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. Indeed, if you look at how it is configured, this is pretty much a very important program on our calendar of events, and this year it has taken a much more comprehensive and a bigger dimension in that we are going to have what we are calling the National Safety Week with a significant number of programs lined up, starting with the main conference, the 3-day main conference, which will run from 3 to 5 October 2022 at Kingdom Hotel in Vic Falls. And then the Thursday, it is going to bring together captains of industry, executives, chief executive officers. I remember I made reference to the effect that one of the biggest hurdles which we are having is the commitment of top management. And as a result, we found it befitting that we need to talk to the chief executive so that they understand their role as far as contributing to the prevention of occupational injuries are concerned. And also significantly within the National Safety Week, we are also going to have the golf tournament, the NASA golf tournament. So as you can see, it's pretty much quite a comprehensive and elaborate program which is mixed together both the safety and health dimension as well as issues to do with wellness, sporting, but I think also more importantly the desire by NASA, National Social Security Authority, to make sure that it mobilizes resources to give to charity through the golf tournament.
This is Business Unusual. I'm Mona Lisa Dube. This evening we are talking about safety and health at the workplace, and we have brought to you this program in partnership with NASA, and my guest this evening is Benjamin Mutetwa, who is the Acting Deputy Director of Occupational Safety and Health with NASA. So who are you targeting for this SHOW conference? So by the way, SHOW is short for Safety and Health at Work. We're going to be using this a lot in the next couple of weeks on this program, so just take note of that. So who are you targeting for this SHOW conference?
The SHOW conference, as it is coined, I think Mona Lisa has put it very well, that it's safety and health at work. And we are targeting chief executives. I know they've got a special program for them on Thursday, the 6th, but nevertheless, the SHOW conference is bringing together chief executives, workers, production managers, risk managers, safety and health practitioners who are operating and having to do with safety and health. But more significantly, we are also beginning to expand in terms of how we want to attract people to learn issues to do with safety and health, not necessarily only in the industry, but in commerce. In commerce, there are so many issues. If you think of the human resource practitioner, this is your conference because it's going to discuss a number of issues which has to do with impairment issues, absence from work, and how does it relate to the work environment, and what are the issues that interplay. From an HR point of view, I think this is a conference for you to benefit. So it is going to touch, in summing up on that particular point, is that we're looking at the social partners. Government has to be in attendance. The employers has to to be attendance. The workers' representatives, the unions. We do have Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, Zimbabwe Federations of Trade Unions. We do have the Apex Council, which is a representatives of the public service. So it's really all-encompassing. We want people to know what occupational safety and is all about and how important it is in the workplace.
So what is your focus for this year? What is the theme of the conference? And maybe just tell us why in this particular context you have decided to go this route.
The theme for this year is creating safe and healthy work environments through and beyond the COVID-19. I think we all understand that we are coming from the COVID-19 era, but again, we need to still be on alert as the issue of COVID is still with us. So the theme for this conference is well conceived in order for people to appreciate that against the background of COVID-19, there is need to harness all our strength to create safe and healthy work environment. Let me also point out that, Mona Lisa, in respect of a historic decision which was made this year at the International Labour Conference in Geneva, in which it was decided that occupational safety and health is now a fundamental principle and right at work. I think that's quite significant. It is a milestone.
When you say, maybe let's talk about, when you say it's a right at work, what do you mean?
What it means is everybody who is in a workspace, anybody who is carrying out some work activities in order for the country, in order for the particular company, in order for the particular workplace to benefit or otherwise, must be in a space which is safe and healthy. That space should not compromise his or her safety or health. In other words, what we are simply saying is that a person, as he or she goes through paces in order to discharge his work, we expect that particular individual to maintain his health. We don't expect that particular individual to have a compromise of any part of his body, whether it's the eye, whether it's the hands, whether it's even the whole body from head to toe. We expect the workplace to be decent, providing a safe and healthy work environment which will guarantee the health of that particular individual until he or she retires.
Does this apply to people that work in factories? Because you'd find that there are a number of people that work in factories and manufacturing companies that are very vulnerable, especially to the use of machines and stuff like that. Are we talking about these people only, or even I, as a person, like I'm a journalist, I work from the office, I work from the field, I work from the studio. I also need to ensure, like my employers also need to ensure that I have a safe working environment. So if it's an office space, what sort of safety are we looking at?
You find that when we are talking about occupational safety and health, it is a discipline which deals with the prevention of work-related injuries. So what it means is any workspace, any kind of work activity brings along with it risks. So if you're talking about the office space, like where we are today, we are interested to see whether the work arrangements are such that you are not going to, whether work arrangements are not going to impose some strenuous aspects on your body. We are talking of the ergonomic arrangements of your workspace. Are the chairs which are being used proper? To the extent
so a comfortable chair is my right.
It is. It is indeed a right. You are supposed to have a chair which is able to secure your back properly. You are supposed to work in a manner that it does not impose a burden on your body. So occupational safety and health is invariably in all industry sectors. I think we are used to the industry setting, where I think issues to do with risks are quite visible with respect to use of machinery and the like. But I think it is important to remind people that even your work environment, if you are putting up a tower out there, if you are digging a trench, that becomes your workspace, and as a result, you need to watch out for what can harm you.
This is Business Unusual. We're taking a quick break, and thereafter we continue with the conversation on safety and health at work, as well as the conference with NASA. Stay with us.
NASA brings you the National Safety and Health Week from the 3rd to the 7th of October 2022 in the resort town of Victoria Falls. The theme this year is creating safe and healthy work environments through and beyond the COVID-19 pandemic. The schedule will cover the following: Safety and Health at Work Conference from the 3rd to the 5th of October at the Kingdom Hotel. Safety and Health Awards Dinner also at the Kingdom Hotel. CEO's Breakfast Forum on the 6th of October at the Elephant Hills Hotel, and the NASA Golf Tournament on the 7th of October at the Elephant Hills Hotel. Join us as we discuss practical ideas that create a safe and healthy work environment. The registration fees are as follows: Safety and Health at Work Conference, 550,000 Zimbabwe dollars. Safety and Health Awards Dinner, 136,000 Zimbabwe dollars. And CEO's Breakfast Forum, 209,000 Zimbabwe dollars. To register, kindly contact Mrs. S. Mugaviri on 0772 163 934 or email mugaviris@nasa.org.zw. NASA, a lifelong promise.
Business Unusual, separating economic facts from fiction.
Welcome back to Business Unusual. I'm Monalisa Dube, and this evening we are discussing safety and health at the workplace. And we are doing this in partnership with the National Social Security Authority, NASA, who are also holding a conference in this regard, which we're also going to be talking more about. My guest this evening is Benjamin Mutetwa, who is the Acting Deputy Director of Occupational Safety and Health with NASA. And before the break, he was just walking us through some of the important points that you have to look out for as an employee. Now, we are going to be having a series of these conversations in the coming weeks. If you have any questions for NASA that you would want clarity on, or if you have a particular situation that has happened to you at work that you don't know what you can do or what should have been done, also do send us those questions on 0731 168 045 on our WhatsApp platform. So we were talking about the conference as well, Benjamin. Tell us about some of the key discussion points that we're going to be looking at.
Yes, this is a fully packed program which is going to touch, among others, creating a resilient occupational safety and health culture. It is going to look at how do we establish a robust system. We are going to have case studies. We are going to have companies which are there, which have been running effective programs, which have drawn the attention of the regulator to the extent that we want to showcase them. We want people to learn from them. We are also going to be touching on some very fundamental and touchy topics, which has to do with the violence and harassment in the workplace.
Violence in the workplace?
Yes.
What sort of violence?
Yes, indeed, Punalisa. I know this is going to generate a lot of interest. And I think listeners out there may need to know that even at international level, ILO has found it befitting to come up with a convention on violence and harassment at work. I think it presents itself in different forms. I think the delegates, and even where you are today, you can begin to reflect on your workspace. What kind of issues do you think can stimulate your mind to say, I think this has to do with violence and harassment at work? So it is important for people to come and contribute to this discussion. In fact, this particular session is a special session set aside for that particular discussion for almost close to 2 hours, whereby the delegates will be actually engaging, led by a highly experienced team of anchors and a panel which involve the International Labour Organization, experts from the African Union, and experts from local. We have done work on violence and harassment work. So it will be quite an experience as far as that particular discussion point is concerned. We'll also be discussing on issues to do with the principles of impairment and disability assessment, return to work. Earlier on made reference to the fact that the human resources practitioner is a key a person whom we want to see attending this particular program. You will stand to benefit because a lot of issues are going to be discussed around issues to do with impairment assessment and how does it play as far as return to work issues are concerned. Listeners may also want to appreciate that there's now what we call the long COVID syndrome, the long COVID syndrome.
Tell us about that.
It is an issue coming from almost 2.5 years of COVID. What kind of issues does it play into people's mindset as far as the issue of COVID is concerned? It has been a drawn aspect for all of us across the globe, in this country, in which people have been working from home, people working from whatever space they are coming from as a result of COVID. And what kind of impact has it done as far as how work has been structured? What kind of implication has that done to the work environment?
Right.
So it's really an important aspect for us to be discussing. We'll also be touching, Mona Lisa, on issues to do with the informal sector. We'll also be touching on issues to do with the fundamental principle and right at work. I made reference to that this year it has been a historic decision made at the International Labour Conference, and as a result it will be important for us to unpack what does it mean, what is the implications to our country in actually aligning ourselves to such kind of a principle.
I was actually going to ask you about the informal sector, because I know we can argue about stats on how much the Zimbabwean economy has become informal, but I think we cannot argue to the fact that it has become largely informal. And I was actually going to ask you on how, as NASA, you're working to incorporate them, because I think most of them are not necessarily registered, because I know Zimra has been on a call to say come and register companies, but the truth is most of these small to medium enterprises are not even registered, right? So how do you account for that informal sector in terms of the safety and health aspect?
Yes, indeed. The informal sector has been a very interesting and very important part of our programs. Recently, we have been doing some work in the food markets across the country. That is in Harare, the Mbare, in Chinoi food markets, in Chivu food markets, the Blawai food markets. Precisely so, we have been dealing with things to do with occupational safety and health. And what we have done is that to try and generate the necessary awareness, to try and generate...
Are they cooperative?
Yes, very much. Surprisingly enough, we have received huge cooperation. Although, yes, indeed, there is still a lot of work to be done. And I want to believe that with the necessary support of our government, like what we did in entering these food markets, where we generated, we created information materials for the level of that particular sector. And very soon we'll be distributing that information as part and parcel of following up on what we did in that particular sector. We carried out issues to do with training, issues to do with COVID-19, issues to do with the hazard identification and risk assessment in this particular sector. So, yes, the informal sector is very important. Let me also just quickly mention that from time to time, as the authority, we conduct what we call Blitz. Blitz is an intense, high-level program in which our inspectors go in industry to try and check on compliance. And as I speak right now, our inspectors are actually on the ground. And what we are seeing is quite of interest to us, in which, as you mentioned, even some other small to medium enterprises are not registered. And this is what we are picking up. And I believe that this exercise, beside being a blitz checking on compliance, is also contributing to the formalization, which I think all of us would want to see businesses operating in a formal way.
Absolutely. And I know we are going to be having a lot of conversations on this in the coming weeks, as I indicated earlier here on Business Unusual, in partnership with the National Social Security Authority, who are hosting a conference in Victoria Falls for safety and health at work. So, speaking about the conference, why have you decided to have the conference in Victoria Falls? You know, there's this notion that sometimes people just look for an excuse not to be in the office and just hang out in Victoria Falls. Why the resort town?
Yeah, sure. It is going to be really business, and also blending it with a high level of tourism attraction. I think Vic Falls is really a place which has got fine tourism, which we want to expose our delegates to, and particularly from our counterparts within the region, Europe and America. Remember, this is a program which is going to attract our friends within the SADC region in Europe, and this will be an opportunity.
Oh, so it's not only a Zimbabwe thing.
Yes, we have got some international speakers who are coming to the conference, and I think we want to take this opportunity to even expose them to the fine tourism attraction which we have in the country. So after some intense debates, engagement, I think it will be important for people to enjoy the Vic Falls attraction.
Okay, so I know we've been talking about the conference and that is going to be held in Vic Falls. You also talked about who you're targeting for them to come.
Sure.
What is the commitment you're expecting from them? How much is the conference? What are the logistics of the conference for them to participate?
The show conference main is going to be 550.
The 3 days.
It's for 3 days, 550,000 Zimbabwe dollars. And the chief executive officers
per individual.
Per individual, and that is going to cover your conferencing, the giveaways to do with your bags, the conference materials, and the like. And then as part of the show conference itself, we do have an awards dinner where we are going to recognize companies which have done well. We do carry out a very comprehensive evaluation exercise in which we try to assess which companies are doing well. And the Wednesday evening of the show conference, that is on the 5th, we are going to have an awards dinner in which we are going to recognize those who have done well. So that component is going to cost $209,000.
Is this inclusive of accommodation, transport, etc., or they have to sort that out?
No, it's not going to include accommodation. Accommodation, the delegates we expect to provide for themselves, including travel. The fees, which I've just highlighted, are simply for the conferencing only.
Okay, to access the conference. And
Yes.
tell us a bit more. You indicated as well here about the Chief Executive Officer's Occupational Safety and Health Forum. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yes, as I indicated earlier on, that one of our biggest hurdles is to gain the attraction of the CEOs. We want commitment from top leadership. We want CEOs to drive the occupational safety and health agenda because we believe that for a successful safety and health system to be in place, to be functional, to have the necessary impact in reducing occupational accident, it needs the commitment of chief executives. So chief executives are expected, they are going to be exposed to high-level presentation to their peer CEOs. We've lined up CEOs whom we believe they are going to lead by example, by showcasing what they've done to their companies. So this is precisely a program which we believe it is going to generate the necessary interest, the necessary commitment from other chief executive officers.
You also spoke about the golf tournament.
Yes, the golf tournament is a way to spice the whole issue of the
They say
safety and
business
health
is done in the golf course.
in the golf course. And indeed, golf is a sporting event. And in addition to that, it's a wellness activity. But I think more importantly is that the golf tournament is really designed to try and mobilize resources in order to channel them to charity. I think this is one of the key goals of NASA as far as the golf tournament is concerned.
All right, as we wrap up this conversation, Benjamin, tell us about where people can go for more information to register for the conference, and just walk us through the amounts again so that people can remember, and if they want to contact NASA, how can they go about it?
Yes, let me just go through the amounts again. The show conference itself, main 3-day conference, 3 to 5 October, is 550,000 Zimbabwe dollars. And the awards dinner is 126,000. My apologies, I think initially I made reference to 209. But the awards dinner of Wednesday is 126,000. And while the chief executive forum is 209,000 Zimbabwe dollars. For any information across the country, please visit your nearest NASA offices. NASA has got its footprint across the country. Go to the nearest NASA office and you'll be assisted accordingly. We have flighted adverts in the print and as well as in the electronic media. You need to watch out for details. Like in today's Fingers, you will be able to see the full details of this particular program which you are talking about.
That was Benjamin Mutetwa, the Acting Deputy Director of OSH, which is Occupational Safety and Health Department with the National Social Security Authority, that is NASA. And we're talking about the Safety and Health at Work conference, and as well as some of the issues that you might have. Remember, I think earlier on in the program, it did indicate that having a right environment, a healthy environment, is actually a right that you're supposed to make sure you have in the workspace. And there's something that I want you to think about, Benjamin, as we wrap up, and I'm sure I want us to pick it up next week when we have the conversation. The issue to do with mental health in the workplace. I think it has become such a huge topic within the corporate space, especially working with toxic managers, people dreading to come to work. So I think that let's have that conversation next week about mental health, because I know sometimes we quickly think, when you think health, we think, the physical aspect, but there is this aspect of mental health in the workplace that I think we need to talk about next week.
Sure, Mona Lisa, I will be more than glad to have a discussion around that.
And there's something also that Benjamin highlighted about violence in the workplace. Please share with us your stories in the workplace. We'd like to go through them again next week on 0731 168 045. And if you have any questions for NASA, if you had a situation or when you have an accident at work or when something happened to you at work that you might want to know how best to go about it, also do send us a WhatsApp on 0731 168 045. And for more information, you can go to the NASA website, www.nasa.org.zw, or you can find more information there on the information, about the conference, as well as issues to do with health. And that's it from me, Mona Lisa Dube, here on Business Unusual, which we have been having in partnership with NASA. We look forward to continue with this conversation. Stay with us here on ZFM Stereo.
Business Unusual, separating economic facts from fiction.
Z. This is Health Matters with Patience. Your choice, your life.
A very good evening, and thank you very much to Mona Lisa Dube. Our time at exactly a minute after 8. You're listening to my station, your station, ZFM. And right now, like we do every single Thursday, it is time for Health Matters. If you do have any questions at all, feel free to send them through to our WhatsApp, 0731 168 045. And joining me today is Dr. Murudo Kamara, who happens to be Senior House Officer at Senior House Officer at Parenyatwa, and she's also a general practitioner. Dr. Kamara, welcome.
Good evening, Patience. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Okay, and so today we want to look at a situation that a lot of us have been through, a situation whereby, somebody gets very sick and you decide, or they tell you that they need to be taken to the hospital. We're going to be talking about the entire process, what we need to be thinking of, the decisions that we need to make, and of course, aftercare. So, Doc, let's start off with at what point should we take a person to the hospital and not the doctor?
Okay. So yes, I do understand that most people, when they get ill, the first thought that comes to mind is, let me go to the hospital. That is, the hub of all the specialists and all the people who deal with their particular conditions. Everyone will start thinking like that. But in terms of going, I'll talk particularly about our government institutions, the central hospitals. Right now, we use a referral system. That is what we mainly use. So there's the referral system, and then there is the parallel system whereby if it's an emergency, we still attend to them even if they're not referred. So I'll start off with the referral system. By referral system, our health sector has levels. So we have the primary level, we have the secondary level, and then we have the tertiary level. So the primary level being the local clinics, the clinics that you have close to you, that's the primary level of care. And then the secondary level is maybe the district hospitals, provincial hospitals. That would be your secondary level of care. And then the next level would be the central hospitals, which is basically the highest level of care in our country. So the referral system says you have to start off at the primary level of care. They evaluate, they hear your story, what are you struggling with, they examine you, they do tests if there's tests they need to do, and if they realize that this now needs specialist care, they then refer you to the relevant level of care. So they can refer you to the secondary level of care or to the tertiary level of care, depending on what is being dealt with and where the specialists are found. Right. So that is the referral system in terms of going to the hospital. And then the other parallel system is if you happen to have a very dire critical condition. So there's cases where someone is ill and you're not necessarily a doctor, but you can sort of see that this is quite critical and quite dire. I'll give an example. Let's say someone goes for someone is pregnant, they've done a pregnancy test, it's positive, they go for a scan and accidentally are found to have maybe an ectopic pregnancy. That becomes a qualification to go straight off to the hospital, to the central hospital. I'll give another example. Let's say it's a road traffic accident. People are injured, broken bones, blood everywhere. That is also a guarantee that you can go straight up to a central hospital. So for the critical conditions, we don't necessarily say, no, go get referred from the primary level, no. But for, it's a headache, you have a stomach upset, you have a small little pimple on your hand, you go to the primary level at first, and then you're referred to the central hospital.
And what should be considered when taking a person to the hospital?
So when taking someone to the hospital, first of all, it's let's say you've passed through the primary care. If they give you a recommendation that you should go to the hospital, then definitely go to the hospital. Some people have a tendency of saying, no, they've said we should go, but let's try this, let's try that. The moment you are referred, that is definitely an indication that you should go to the hospital. It is final, but at the end of the day, people have autonomy. Okay, you then decide what you do with the information, but we just let you know you need to go to specialists. Then the other consideration is what I've mentioned. How critical is this? So maybe you've been hit by a car, the accident example that I've given before, you've been hit by a car, but it's it just hit you. It was moving at 10 km per hour and it just, hit you. Side mirror, your motor has just hit you, and you can still go to a primary level of care and then you can be referred onwards. And then that is different from someone who's been hit by a car moving at 100 km an hour along Mutare Road, and they flew and then hit the ground. And that would definitely need to call an ambulance, get the person, go straight off to the hospital. So basically what we're saying is the hospital, it's a I would say a specialist hub, for lack of a better word, where you are now going for specialist services. Okay. You can still go with your GI upsets and your headaches, and you can still go. We won't then shun you away as long as you have a referral most of the time, as long as you have a referral. But it's where you're now coming for specialist care, where the general practitioners and the nurses and the local hospital have, the local clinics have said, no, this is now beyond us. Let's refer them to the hospital.
Well, if you're just tuning in and joining me, my name is Patience Musa, and this is Health Matters every single Thursday from 8 o'clock through to 8:30. If you do have any questions for this evening's expert, Dr. Murudo Kamara, send your questions through to our WhatsApp 0731168045. Now, okay, so we decide that we are taking our relative, friend, whoever, to the hospital. What should we pack when we make that decision? what do you advise?
Okay, I think that's a very important and very a very important question, actually. So I remember at one point there was a patient who then said, so when you're doing the rad round, one of the first questions is, do you have any issues? Is there anything that is troubling you, that is not going well? And this person said, yes, I don't have a towel, I don't have soap, I don't have Colgate, I don't have toiletries. So that is, it was quite sad, and the patient looked sad. So I would say one of the things you really need to pack is toiletries, definitely. That's like an essential. Even when you're going on holiday, you pack toiletries. So when you're taking someone to hospital, pick their essentials.
Rather you go
toiletry.
with them and, even and then you take them back with you rather than not having them at all.
Exactly. It makes life easy for everyone. So basic toiletries, that's quite helpful. And then, of course, there are likely going to be bills, so you need to carry a little bit of cash. In case there are any bills, if you have medical aid, you carry your medical aid card, in case there are any bills. And I think those are the main things that you need to carry, toiletries, and then the other things will then depend on whether they're admitted or not. When they're admitted, you'll be told as you go, we now need this, we need this for the other things. But I think this is the bare minimum, your toiletries and a little bit of money for expenses that might arise, or a medical aid card if you have one.
When, let's say one gets to this hospital and, of course, they're about to be attended to, can they pick a doctor to attend to them? Or is it really just all up to administration or which doctor is available at the moment? If they do know a doctor that's there that they prefer, can they say, hey, doctor?
Okay. So in the public sector, the central hospitals, there is what we call, there's rosters, generally. There's rosters. So I'll just call them call rosters, right? There's call rosters, which are set per month. So the roster will be mentioning who is covering the casualty or the emergencies area for that particular day, for each day, actually. So when you get there, you don't necessarily get to choose. Unless, of course, there's a particular specialist who you've seen before, they've seen you, they've been following you up, you mention, but on that particular day, you are seen by the person who is on call on that particular day, the person who is covering the emergencies on that particular day. And then they will hand you over to the specialist who you've been dealing with, if you have one. So later on in the process, they'll then hand you over to the specialist you were dealing with. If it's that you're coming maybe for an outpatient visit, which is usually after you've been seen before in the emergency department, if you're coming for an outpatient visit, there is usually a designated team that is going to see you. But amongst the team, it's not necessarily that you're going to be seeing a particular doctor every time you come. You might then see different people who are within that same team attending to you. But the continuity depends then on the notes that will be written. We always write whatever we do. We write notes. So when you come, there's always a track record of what has happened before, and whoever sees you is able to take it from where it was left off. Then when you go to the private sector, it's a little bit different. You will be attended to by whoever is on call in terms of the first point of care. And then if it needs specialist management, they will then ask you if you have a specialist that you've already been dealing with. If you have one, then that specialist is called, they come in, they attend to you. But if there is no specialist who you've been seeing over time, then there's always a specialist on call for that particular hospital on that particular day who they will call and they'll come and see you.
And if so happens that, a person has come through to the hospital and they've been admitted, they've been given a bed and a ward, does one have a choice? As in, I'm not too happy with the ward that I'm in or the person I'm sharing or the people I'm sharing the ward with, or I'm not happy with my bed, it's uncomfortable. Who does one talk to in a situation like that? Do you just talk to any nurse? Who's best?
Okay. So I think in terms of which bed, which cubicle, which ward, usually the nurses arrange that, but it's based on the doctors that are seeing you. For example, in a public institution, let's say I'm working for a general surgical team, we know that this particular ward and this particular ward are the ones that admit general surgical patients. These particular wards are for obstetrics and gynecology and stuff. Yeah, so that's how it happens. I think actually even in the private sector, they have that same arrangement. You know, these particular wards are for this particular specialty, etc., etc. So in terms of the ward, it will be based mainly on that. And it's also based on which team is attending to you.
So there's no way it can change. That cannot change.
That is difficult to change.
Okay.
Yes.
And the bed?
The bed, you'll be given available beds, obviously. If there is capacity, like for example, if all the beds are free, you might have the luxury of choosing. But in most cases, especially in the public hospitals, most of the times the wards are packed. So we do want people to choose, but if it's pegged and there's only one bed available, the person will end up only getting that bed. However, they still have leeway to say, I'm not comfortable, the mattress is not comfortable, we find another one. The blankets, I'm not warm enough, we find blankets. And we try to make people as comfortable as possible, and with the resources that are available.
And you are a senior house officer at Parirenyatwa.
Yes.
What is the process there when somebody wants to upgrade? If they want a private room, are private rooms available? Is there like a private floor? I understand there is a private floor.
Yes.
And if you want to upgrade, what is the process?
Okay, so there is private wards, yes. The D floor is private, and there is B12 as well, which is also a private ward. So let's say you've come in and you're in a ordinary ward and you want to go to the private ward. First off, you inform the nurses. You also inform the doctors who are attending to you that I would like to go to the private ward, right? If the doctor attending to you is capable of attending to you in the private ward, then they will let you know.
So if they can't attend to you in the private ward, then chances are you won't go.
You can go and you will find another specialist who can access. It means
changing a doctor.
It means you might have to change the doctor if they can't access the private ward. So you find good specialists when you go to specialists, let's say in private, when they say go and get admitted, they'll tell you the particular place to go get admitted, because they know the particular places they go for their rounds to see patients. Yes. So it's a matter of knowing if your specialist is able to then see you there. If they're not able to and you still want to go, then the discussion there would be to change to someone who can come and see you there.
Our time at exactly 17 minutes after 20. You're listening to my station, your station, ZFM Stereo, and this is Health Matters. And today's guest and expert is General Practitioner Dr. Murudo Kamara, who happens to be a senior officer at Parirenyatwa. And today we're looking at, hospitals, the processes, the things we need to know before we admit ourselves, before we admit our loved ones. Now, there was a time, I think when I grew up, when you went to visit somebody, when I was younger, when you went to visit someone in the hospital, people just brought fruits. And then there were things that you'd kind of see people kind of smuggling in, like hot food, but the thing that was allowed, that fruits were allowed, and fruits only were allowed. But what kind of foods are allowed in hospitals, in particular the hospital that you work for?
Okay. So I think that is a very key question, which many patients ask when they leave, which many relatives ask when they leave their relative to be admitted. So in terms of foods, yes, fruits are allowed, and there's certain cases where someone is either not is either remaining hungry after eating the hospital food, or they're saying, no, I don't have appetite for this, but I have appetite for that and that and that. So in that case, it becomes flexible to bring in food for them based on their preferences. But it's always key to liaise with the nursing staff. They're the ones who sort of spend the rest of the day with the patients. So it's always key to liaise with the nursing staff. We want to bring food. Is it okay? What foods can we bring? And,
So there's absolutely no need to feel like we're smuggling stuff into hospitals.
No need to feel like smuggling. Just have a chat with the nurses, and it's just a matter of talking to them, telling them we're going to bring food, we're going to bring this and that. And, it's always open. It's always open.
And what is the procedure when it comes to having a word with the attending doctor? I know a lot of times we bring our patients to hospitals, and maybe this is a patient that's very sick, is not speaking any longer. So there's no one really who gets to see the doctor. And you're told, the doctor comes early in the morning, 6 a.m. But 6 a.m. is not visiting hour. So how do you navigate that?
Okay. So, I think that's a very key question, because everyone wants to see the attending doctor and, get information. So what we usually do, it depends on the particular ward. But what usually happens in most wards is during the visiting hour, there is always one doctor who is part of the team who will be there and talk to people who might have questions. That is in most of the wards. But in some of the wards, you have to come in the morning. You come in the morning around 8. You wait. When the doctors are done with their ward rounds, they come to you, they talk to you, and, if you have questions, you discuss.
So you're actually allowed into the hospital during this time to see the doctor?
Yes. Like I said, everything you liaise with the nurses, because they are always there. So you get in, you tell the nurses, I'm relative to so-and-so, and I want to see the doctors to get information. They'll show you where to wait, and then they inform the doctors that there's relatives for so-and-so and for so-and-so who want to see you. And then after the ward rounds, you're attended to. I think that's actually the safest, because the doctors do their rounds in the morning. Okay. And the lunch hour the visiting hour arrangement that I'd spoken about, it's in some wards, but you find that in some parts of the hospital, during that time, people will be running outpatient clinics, people will be doing other things, and they might not be able to. So the best would be a morning visit, talk to the doctors, or a day before, tell the nurses we might want to talk to the doctor. They tell you how to do it. And most of the times, if there is critical information, the doctors actually ask that you come the following day. So you'll be informed when you come for the visiting hour what time to come, and come and see the doctors.
Now, most of the time when we come to public hospitals, it's, to be honest, it's because, you really cannot afford better. So there is a feeling, tina choice, tingori pano, we do want our person to get healthier, but this is what it is. This is what we can afford. Yeah. But what happens when you want a second opinion? Okay. Who do you talk to? And, looking at it also, you also don't have money, and you also don't want any of your, you don't want your patient kutazo sarachi batwa some type of way. Okay. What is the best way of doing that?
In terms of second opinions, we have nothing against second opinions. And if someone feels they need a second opinion, they can always highlight it to their doctor who is attending to them. That I think I want to get a second opinion. No, not telling them
no, but
that would create trouble.
As a doctor, if a patient comes to you and says, please help me out, I need a second opinion.
Okay.
To be honest, how does that make you feel?
Honestly, someone would feel challenged. That's very true. But then at the end of the day, the patient has the autonomy that I mentioned earlier. They have the freedom of choice and the freedom of saying, no, I want to try this, I want to. So yes, it will be, you feel challenged and it might be painful, but that's what the patient wants to do. So in that case, like for example, there are some patients who say, I want to go to South Africa for a second opinion. I want to. So it's a matter of arranging. The doctor might arrange a transfer for you to transfer you to where you want to go and get the second opinion. But if it's, let's say you want a second opinion within the same hospital, and then you have a particular doctor that you know you want to attend to you. That's what you mean.
Or a doctor that you don't know. You just say, look, I want a second.
I want someone else to attend.
Someone else to attend. It's the third time to hospital. So, would like to try a second opinion within the system.
I've not come across that.
Because that's the reason why.
Yes, but I think the channel is still to liaise with your doctor, right? Internally, what usually happens to transfer one patient to someone else is, let's say, there's specialties, and in some cases there is then subspecialties within a specialty. So let's say, for example, within, let's say pediatrics. Let's say the pediatricians are seeing a patient, they're specialists, but there happens to be a heart problem, and there's a pediatrician who is specialized in cardiology. So the pediatrician might end up referring to the cardiologist to give an opinion. That is what I've come across. The doctors talking to each other, I think I now need a subspecialist opinion, like a deeper opinion concerning this condition. But patients should always be able to say what they're thinking, what they want, and have a discussion with their doctors.
In an ideal world,
It's a difficult...
In an ideal world. 5 minutes to and the end of Health Matters here on my station, your station, ZFM Stereo. I'll time it 25 minutes past in case there's somebody out there who heard me and is like panicking. Could patients is already 5 minutes to 9? No, I'm saying there's just 5 minutes left for Health Matters. But look, let's get to that point whereby someone is discharged. At what point is a patient discharged? Because I've seen so many patients who actually discharged, yet when we come to hospitals, we're coming to get well. So you'd think hospital ato very well, akutotamba, akutasei, akufamba kananga singafambe, akutaura, and all of that. So at what point are patients discharged?
Okay. I think that's another key question that many people ask when you discharge their relative. But there are many factors that affect when someone is going to be discharged. So I will talk about them one by one in brief. So first of all, there's the ideal situation that you've mentioned, where someone is completely fit, they're now okay, they came in not walking, now they're walking, now they're breathing fine, everything has been sorted. That's the ideal situation, and one of the reasons why someone would be discharged. Secondly is when someone has come in a critical condition, we've stabilized them. They're not yet back at 100%, but there's nothing that we're doing for them in hospital that cannot be done at home. Let's say, for example, someone has come in with an infection, right? We have admitted them because we've said they need IV antibiotics. We need to be injecting antibiotics. We can't do that at home. So we admit this person, give them their injections. Maybe they need some physiotherapy. We started off. We do the things that we need to do in hospital. But let's say after a week, we've stabilized the patient. The infection is cleared. They're still not really walking. They still need the physiotherapy. They probably still need maybe the psychologist support, etc. But those are things that can be done outside of hospital. So in that case, we can end up discharging someone.
But how do you know it can be done outside the hospital? We don't know the person, the situation at home.
Okay.
Is there an inquiry and an inquiry into situations at home? Is there a support system at the house before we actually discharge this person? Because sometimes discharge but hakuna support system. This person stays all by themselves. They've got and they're still limping, or they can't cook for themselves, they can't bath themselves.
So before we discharge someone, usually we preempt. We say we're planning to discharge you tomorrow. Can your relatives come? Something like that. But most of the decisions are in liaison with the patient's relatives. And then when it comes to discharge and someone is still in that state where they can't function on their own, we definitely need to see relatives. Highlight to them we are discharging this patient because the things that are left we feel can be done at home. We think they can be done at home, and this patient no longer needs to be an inpatient. And then we tell them the things that they need to be able to do at home. We need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. In some cases, some relatives actually say, you know what, we need to put our house in order. Can we have a day or two? And we see if we can allow it. Sometimes it's difficult because of the pressure that is on the hospital. Like there is so many patients who need to come in who are even more critical. So sometimes we end up saying, can you bring a decision tomorrow because we need to, free up space for others who are coming in. Sometimes we end up doing that. But ordinarily, we liaise with the relatives. We tell them, this is what we need you to be able to do at home. If they have any challenges, they also say, no, we need to put our house in order. Can we go and, sort ourselves out and come back?
So you also allow for